Speaking of the Constitutional Court, we continue to monitor developments outside the home of former President Jacob Zuma in Nkandla. Following the Constitutional Court ruling finding him guilty of contempt of court, he received a 15-month prison sentence. Our reporter Ayanda Mhlongo is there for us. And explain to us what we're seeing on our screen.
A very good afternoon to you, Nzing, and good afternoon to our viewers at home. Well, the visuals that you are seeing is we are slowly moving behind a group of Amabutu who are making their way to the home of the former President Jacob Zuma. As I said earlier on, that large groups are expected today to start gathering outside the home of the former president to show their support and solidarity with the former president. So this group that you are seeing now here is Mabutu. We're about a few minutes away, or less, I'd say a kilometer, or less than a kilometer away from the president's home. They are leading a motorcade, and in fact, just behind me there is quite a long motorcade of a number of vehicles, and in front of the motorcade is a small group of ANC members who are here as well to show their support to the former president. We have been told over the past couple of days, or the 2 days that we've been here monitoring the developments around Nkandla and at the home, that the supporters are going to be arriving, and this is the first biggest group, one can say, of supporters that are now making their way to the former President Jacob Zuma's home. Zinga?
Ayanda, just give us more context. I know you did that a little bit earlier on, but for our S3 viewers and others who've just tuned in, what is the purpose of this, and do we know how long it's going to last, and why is this happening?
Well, these are groupings from province of KwaZulu-Natal and Nzinga, supporters of the former president that have been mobilizing across the province since, of course, the announcement by the decision by the Constitutional Court that he be sentenced to 15 months in prison for being in contempt of court. And since then, the supporters of the former president have been mobilizing across the province to see hundreds of what they have been telling us is they wanted to see hundreds of people descend on Nkandla, what they call to defend and protect the former president. People who have come out here today insist that they will not allow the former president to hand himself over to the authorities, nor will they allow any law enforcement agencies who will come to his home to arrest the former president. So this is part of the mobilization by those that are in support of the former president to prevent law enforcement agencies from coming forth to effect any arrest. Nzinga?
Ayanda, our colleague Nonkululeko Sope yesterday was broadcasting on Twitter for the SABC News account a police vehicle getting turned away from former President Jacob Zuma's home in Nkandla. We are also hearing from you now that these protesters, or these people who have shown up, do not want law enforcement there. Is there any law enforcement presence there now?
Apart from one or two police vehicles that we saw driving past the home of the former president Nzinga, there is no police presence in and around the president's home where these crowds are expected to gather. Of course, there is the security, the presidential security, as well as South African Police Service members that are inside the residence that are always there to protect the former president. But insofar as where we are in the main road leading to the president's home and around this area, there has not been much police activity. Yesterday, yes, that a police van that we saw arriving at the president's home was stopped by members of MKMVA. Of course, Nzinga, it was not clear as to whether or not they had intended to go inside the president's home or they were just on traveling in the streets patrolling. The statement from the the South African Police Service was that those police officials were just patrolling the area, but of course they were then met by members of Nkandla military veterans who then surrounded the vehicle, and what we then observed was that vehicle making a U-turn and leaving. There was some interaction and engagement between members of the MKMVA and those 3 police officers that were inside the van, but from where we were, we could not tell what the discussion was about. The MKMVA also were not willing after that to speak to us in terms of what happened and why that police van was turned away. But Zinga, they have been rather hostile over the past couple of days since we've been here, and since the MKMVA from February when they camped outside, since they've been camped outside the home of the former president, every vehicle that enters the president's home, they would stop and speak to the drivers. In the past, yes, they have turned people away who they believed or that they should not have been there. So the scenes that we saw yesterday were not new. This is something that we had previously seen. And of course, members of the MKMVA this time really, really angry, really, really hostile towards anyone that's trying to gain entry or enter the president's or the former president's home. Zenga?
Ayanda Mhlongo giving us an update from Nkandla, KwaZulu-Natal, there where people are making their way to protect former President Jacob Zuma. We will be monitoring that situation and giving you updates as we have been doing as the SABC.